Welcome to the channel and welcome to my review of Codex Craftworld Eldar. This book is up for pre-order today and will be available to get from Games Workshop on Saturday the 28th of October. I want to thank Games Workshop for sending me this book. I really appreciate it. It gives me the opportunity to talk through what's inside these pages and share it with the community a week before it comes out. So we're going to take a deep dive into this book and look at a lot of the points changes. And there's a lot of points changes and some of the new stuff in here. Before I begin though, I've got to do something different. I can't point the camera at the book because people keep taking screenshots and putting up all over the internet, and Games Workshop have told me off on more than one occasion, and if I keep doing that then I'm not going to get review copies of these books anymore, so you're not going to hear this stuff in advance. So I can't do that, so instead I've decided just to talk. If you don't want to listen to me rattle on and tell you everything that I've found in this book, then please turn off now. I understand that some people find that very frustrating, but it is what it is. I can't poke the dragon anymore, and I can't just sit there and talk with the book in my hand while the camera's pointed at my face, because I'll rattle on all over the place and this video will be 3 hours long. This way I can talk as quickly as possible and edit the video as quickly as I can, so you get all the pertinent information as quickly as you can, if that makes utter sense to you. So let's begin. So this book deals solely with the Azor, which are the Eldari of the Craftworld. It's not got Drukhari in it, Ynnari or Harlequins, just Craftworld Eldar. Subsequently, it hasn't got any new models in it either. If you want new Eldari models, then you're going to have to wait for the Ynnari Codex whenever that comes out. So I'm going to cover some of the core rules first, then some of the points changes, stratagems, things like that, then flip back to the data sheets because you guys want to hear the main stuff first. So the main stuff: Warriors of the Craftworld, Warriors of the Azor. You've got Ancient Doom, Battle Focus, and Path of Command hasn't changed. Path of Command previously in the index was an entry in all of the data sheets. Now it's got its own thing and a keyword. So if you've got a Model A unit with the Path of Command keyword, then you have Path of Command, just as it worked before. Reroll hit rolls of 1 when you're within 6 inches of him, just like his Space Marine Captain. Then in the Lethal Allegiance section at the back, it talks about Craftworld units, and it mentions that Ynnari is a keyword that some units in this book can gain when taken as part of a reborn army, as detailed in other publications. If a detachment contains any Ynnari units, it is no longer a Craftworld detachment and will not gain either of the abilities listed below. And the abilities listed below are Path of War, which is like objective secured. If you have troops within a certain range of an objective, you can score that objective regardless of any other enemy models there, unless they have a similar ability. It talks about the Craftworld attributes, and to benefit from the Craftworld attributes, everything, you have to have a battle-forged army, and all units in a Craftworld detachment gain a Craftworld attribute, so long as every unit in that detachment is from the same Craftworld. The only exception here is Heroes of Legend. Phoenix Lords in Craftworld's detachments do not prevent other units in that detachment from gaining a Craftworld attribute. And there are 5 Craftworlds. There's Altiok, Biel-Tan, Iyanden, Samhain, and Ulthwé. And they're pretty much what I imagine them to be, really. Similar to other Legion traits and Space Marine chapter tactics. So Altiok, you subtract 1 to any hit rolls for attacks that target the unit with this attribute at a range of 12 or more. So Altiok has the standout ability there, such as the Stygies Dogma from the Admech. I think the Alpha Legion have got it, the Raven Guard have got it. Basically, if any of your units are more than 12 inches away from the enemy, it's -1 to hit them. Biel-Tan, the Swordwind, they have +1 to their leadership, but also you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for all shuriken weapons used by units with this attribute. So you bring a Biel-Tan detachment, you re-roll and hit rolls of 1 all the time, and it talks about what counts as a shuriken weapon. Essentially everything that has the shuriken keyword is a shuriken weapon, so Biel-Tan are more shooty. Iyanden, the dead Craftworld, one that was destroyed by that half fleet, well, they can never lose more than 1 model as the result of any single failed morale test. So you fail a morale test, you're only losing 1 guy. Doesn't sound great, but they've got a second ability. If a unit with a damage chart has this attribute, double the number of wounds it actually has remaining whenever you consult the chart to determine its characteristics. So that means Wraith Knights and your vehicles will stay at more effective movement and shooting for longer. You basically double the moon's characteristics. Bring a lot of vehicles, bring a lot of Wraith Knights. They're going to be more effective for longer. Samhain, the Wild Host, well, you can reroll failed charge rolls for units with this attribute all the time. Reroll failed charges. And bikers don't suffer the penalty when they move and shoot with heavy weapons. So that's quite nice. That sits perfectly with their narrative as well. And then Ulfway, basically Ulfway get a 6-up feel no pain. You roll a d6, and on the 6, every time they lose a wound, they don't lose a wound. It does mention that if a model has a similar ability, such as a Hemlock Ray Fighter or Spirit Stones, etc., then you pick one or the other, not both. It doesn't stack. So to my mind, the two main abilities that stand out there are Ulfway with their 6-up feel no pain, and Altiok with their subtracting 1 to hit rolls, just like the Raven Guard when you shoot at them. However, rerolling hit rolls of 1 with shuriken weapons all the time might be a tasty ability, particularly with battle focus. It sounds good. Right, now strangely enough, I'm going to jump to the points section, because Eldar players since 8th edition dropped have been complaining that they can't compete on a level playing field with other codexes. And I think some of that might be because of a hangover from 7th edition when they ruled the waves. They were very, very strong. But some of that, they argued, was their units were over point costed. And considering the amount of points changes there are in this codex, I would say that Games Workshop agree with you. I have not picked up one of the new codexes yet. Bear in mind, I've got every single one of the new ones in 8th edition and seen this number of points changes. It is insane. So more than, I don't know how many units there are in total in this book. There's probably about 40 or 50, but 30, I counted them, 30 of them have points changes, and all of them go down. And then when you look at your ranged weapons, I think there's 30 different types of ranged weapons. 17 of those go down. Well, except for the Shadow Weaver, which is +4, that goes up. And a Vibro Cannon +10, that goes up. But 17 of the other ones go down, and 9 of the melee weapons go down. So kind of an admission there, maybe, from Games Workshop, that maybe they'd overcosted them from 7th in the index. But that's very, very good news if you're an Eldar player out there. It's also very confusing news if you're an Eldar player out there. Basically, when you build your next list, when you've got this book in your hand, you're going to need to check and double check every single points cost, because you've got a greater than 50% chance that the points cost of the unit that you want to bring has gone down. I was asked, Wraith Knights. Wraith Knights have not gone down in costs, but their Titanic Ghostglaive has gone down at -35 points. Considering the number of points changes in this book, it would take a long time for me to go through every single one, and I don't think it would be that interesting for me to talk through every single one, but let's talk about the shout out ones, the ones that stand out for me. So Dire Avengers down 2, Banshees down 3, Striking Scorpions down 4, Warp Spiders down 4, which is all nice. Let's talk about the big hitters. Crimson Hunters down 23 points, Exarchs down 48 points, Crimson Hunter Exarch. Grav Falcon, Falcon Tank down 49 points. What else we got? Farseer Skyrunner down 24 points, Night Spinner down 20, Spirit Seer down 22, Vol Support Weapon Battery -47 points. I think I mentioned that one already. And then in the name characters, there's a lot of drops as well. Some of them have only gone down 4, 8 or 10 points, but Eldrad's down 30, Baharoth is down 10, Karandras down 18, Malgan Ra down 19, Warwalkers down 11, Vipers down 14, yeah. And then in the range weapons, you've got the Avenger Shuriken Catapult down 2, D-Cannons down 5, Scorpion's Claw down 8, Singing Spear down to 4 from 12. The Star Cannon's gone down half price, it's now 15 points. Twin Scatter Laser down 13 points. Twin Shuriken Cannon's down 7 points. Twin Star Cannon is down 32 points. Basically, all Eldar players out there, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. Take a good look at the point section and add a few more units for the same cost as you paid before you had this book in your hand. In the stratagems section, you've got 3 pages of stratagems, 5 Craftworlds, 3 stratagems. 5 of those stratagems are obviously Craftworld specific. The rest is you can use There's some standout ones in the stratagem section. You've got Cloud Strike and Webway Strike. Basically, you can spend a command point for a Cloud Strike or 1 to 3 command points for Webway Strike, and pay to put things in reserve. Remember, to benefit from stratagems, you need to have a battle-forged army and include any Craftworld detachments, including auxiliary support detachments. Then you have access to the stratagems here. And Cloud Strike, for example, if you've got the fly keyword, you can put stuff in reserve and it will drop in at 9 inches away from the enemy. Because you're doing that during the deployment zone, even in a match play game, it's before the start of the first battle round, you could choose to put 2 or 3 things in reserve and drop them down from the skies. For Webway Strike, same deal, but you don't have to have the fly keyword. It can be, essentially, it could be a Wraith Knight. Note, tell a lie, scratch that. It says Azuri infantry or Azuri biker unit can come out of the webway 9 inches away from an enemy thing. Another good stratagem on here, which Craftworld's Eldar players will like, is Fire and Fade. So move, shoot, move is back again. It costs a command point, but you can use this stratagem after a friendly Azuriani unit shoots in your shooting phase. If you do so, the unit can immediately move 7 inches as if it were in the movement phase. It can't advance, but it can charge. So you can move, shoot, move, and charge potentially. Interesting to point out, it says after a friendly Azuriani unit, any unit. So a Wraith Knight is a Craftworld unit, so it could move, shoot, move 7, and charge, which is quite frightening. Also frightening for other stuff like Banshees and Wraith Blades, anything mean. Other nice little ones, 1 command point, you can give a friendly Guardian unit a 4-up invulnerable save against shooting attacks. Nice little thing, Celestial Shield. Seer Council is quite good. If you've got a Warlock and a Fire Seer unit within 6 inches of each other, you can add 1 to the results of any psychic test for both units. For 1 point, you can overload energy field projectors on your Wave Serpent and fire it twice, because typically Wave Serpents do their shield once. Well, on this, you can immediately discharge the Serpent shield again. And remember, that's unlimited, so in the next turn, you could do it on the same Wave Serpent again, and on the next turn, you could do it on the same Wave Serpent again, should you wish to keep discharging your energy shields. Let's look at the high point ones. 2 command points. Use this stratagem when a friendly Craftworld infantry unit or one with a fly keyword is chosen as a for an enemy attack in the shooting phase or fight phase. Then it's subtract 1 to hit rolls that target that unit for the rest of the fight phase. That costs 2 command points. 2 command points for feigned retreat. Use this stratagem if a Craftworld unit from your army falls back. That unit can then shoot and charge. So you're locked in combat, spend 2 command points, fall back, shoot at another unit and charge another unit, or shoot and charge back into the unit that you were locked up with. That one's quite nice. Any more 2 command point ones here? Tears of Aisha. Use this stratagem at the start of your turn. Select a Wraith construct model. That model immediately regains D3 lost wounds. Phantasm. Use this this is 2 command points. Use the stratagem at the start of your first battle round, but before the turn has begun. So first battle round, you've set everything up on the table. First turn has yet to go. You spend 2 command points and you can pick up 3 Craftworld units from your army on the battlefield and set them up as again. You can move them and set them up again as described in the deployment section. If there's anything inside a transport, then they come up too. So you could have deployed to overload 1 flank, and then you spend 2 command points, and then you can move 3 things way across to the other flank. Phantasm, nice. You've got the Avatar Resurgent. This is 3 command points. Use the stratagem in the fight phase. If an Avatar of Cain is slain, don't remove him. Roll a d6. After the enemy unit that slew it has resolved all of its attacks, and the Avatar of Cain remains on the battlefield with that many wounds remaining. The Avatar of Cain has just become Guilliman, stands back up again. Nice. On to the Warlord Traits. I have to say that I'm not that impressed with some of these Warlord Traits. They're okay. You've got Ambush of Blades. Each time you make a hit roll of 6 for a friendly Craftworld unit within 6 inches of your Warlord in the fight phase, then your AP weapons get increased by 1. An eye on distant events, enemy units can't fire Overwatch at your Warlord. Falcon Swiftness, add 2 to your Warlord's move characteristic. Fate's Messenger, add 1 to the wounds characteristic of your Warlord, and he has a 6-up feel no pain. I like that one. That would be good. Mark of the Incomparable Hunter. This one's even better though. Your Warlord can target enemy characters in the shooting phase, even if they are not the closest enemy model. Your Warlord can just shoot characters. Give that to someone like a Fireseer or a Warlock on a bike with a big gun, and you can target enemy characters all the time. And Seer of the Shifting Vector. Once per battle round, you can re-roll a single hit roll, wound roll, save roll, psychic test, or denied test made for your Warlord. So they're all a bit near the Warlord traits. There are named characters and Warlord traits for Craftworlds. It says essentially if you bring a named character, such as Eldrad or someone like that, then you have to pick the specific Warlord trait that matches the Craftworld. So Altiok, as long as all friendly units within 6 inches of your Warlord are Altiok units, those units automatically pass Morale Test Bealtan. At the start of your shooting phase, you can pick a friendly Bealtan unit within 3 inches and reroll all failed to hit rolls for that unit in that phase. Iandan, your Warlord can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy psychic phase. If your Warlord is a Psyker, they can attempt to deny 1 more power than usual. So, you know, that's not great, is it? Samhain, whenever your Warlord piles in or performs a heroic intervention, they can move 3 inches towards the nearest enemy character rather than towards the nearest enemy model. Meh. In addition, if your Warlord chooses to target the same enemy character with all of their close combat attacks, you can add 1 to your Warlord's attacks characteristic until the end of the phase. Meh. Ulthway, Fate Reader. If your army is battle-forged and your Warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 at the start of each of your and your opponent's turns. Your and your opponent's turns. And on a d6, you gain a command point. That one's nice, because in a 5-turn game, if you last 5 turns, that will be 10 times you roll that dice. And every time you roll a 6, you get a command point. It's quite nice. That's probably the best one. Ulthway. In the relic section, we've got swords and shuriken pistols and power swords and laser lances. There's different relics that are better versions of the ones that already exist on the model. And then there's all the other stuff that you could potentially take too. Phoenix Gem is quite nice. The first time this model is slain, roll a d6 for each unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches of this model. Remember, it's friend or foe. And on a roll of 2 or more, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. If at least 1 mortal wound is inflicted as a result of this, then your model is not slain, but remains in play with a single wound remaining. If no mortal wounds are inflicted, this model is slain. So you're shoving something up the table to get it in your enemy deployment zone. And when they die on a 2+, they're doing d3 mortal wounds to everything around them within 3 inches and getting back up again. That one's quite nice. You've got Felushu's Wing. I don't know how to say it. It's got lots of weird things in it. But basically, you can pick an infantry model and give it a move characteristic of 12 and the fly keyword. There's 1 Spirit Stones of Anathlan. For a Bealtan Psyker models only, you can re-roll any failed psychic test for the bearer. Any failed psychic test, just re-roll. However, if you fail the second time, your Psyker can't attempt to manifest any more psychic powers that phase. Shift Shroud of Alansair. For Altiok infantry, your opponent must subtract 1 from their hit rolls for attacks that target the bearer in the shooting phase. In addition, you can deploy this model in hiding more than 9 inches away from an enemy and pop up in any turn. The Burnished Blade of Eliarni, Bealtan model. Oh, that's a power sword. That's just a pimped power sword. AP -3, damage 2. The Iandan Psyker. Citronome of Iandan is something that you give to an Iandan Psyker only, and once during the battle. Once. At the start of a fight phase, you declare that this model will activate the Citronome of Ianden. If you do so, for the rest of that fight phase, the attacks characteristics of all friendly Ianden Wraith construct units that are within 6 inches of this model are doubled. However, at the end of the fight phase, each Ianden Wraith construct that was affected by the Citronome suffers D3 mortal wounds. So, absolutely awesome, but it happens once per battle, doubling all the number of attacks that you have of Wraith Blades. However, Wraith Blades, as you know, only have 3 wounds, so if each Ianden Wraith construct, every single model will have to roll a dice and suffer D3 mortal wounds. So, yeah, one final hurrah before they all die. The Ghost Helm of Banshees, Ulthway Psyker only, and the wearer adds 1 to any psychic test when they attempt to manifest Smite. We've got the Blazing Star of Vol, modelled with a Shuriken Pistol or Shuriken Catapult only, and add 2 to the number of attacks that weapon can make. And then we've got the Shimmer Plume of something or other, and it's for an Autarch only, subtract 1 for all hit rolls that target this model. So those are the relics. The Phoenix Gem sounds the best one, where you shove a unit straight into your opponent's grill and hopefully die and do D3 mortal wounds to everything within 3 inches around them. That sounds good. The rest of them are just pimp weaponry. The ones I haven't mentioned are just pimp weaponry. I mean, the Beal Tan Psyker, re-rolling any failed psychic tests, that sounds good. Or giving a infantry model a 12-inch move and a fly keyword, that sounds good, but you typically put a Farseer or a Warlock on a bike anyway, right, if you want to move them around. So none of the relics really jump out at me as a must-have. Great takes. There was one of the Guard Codex, I think, where you stole command points on a 5-up, or you regenerated command points on a 5-up. There isn't that one in here. And in the Warlord Traits, the Ulthway one, where you gain a command point on a 6-up at the start of every battle round, that sounds like the best one. But the rest, again, don't really jump out at me. So the relics or Warlord Traits for the Eldar, not great. But their points reductions are awesome. So if you're an Eldar player, don't get too excited about the Warlord Traits and relics. Get very excited about the points reductions, and get very excited about some of the stratagems, because some of them are good. Move, shoot, move being very good. Being able to deploy more stuff in reserve is good, is powerful, particularly with a fast mobile army such as the Eldar. And being able to re-heal D3 wounds on a Wraith construct can also be very situational, but it might be the situation that changes the game for you. And having Craftworld abilities as well is very nice for you guys as well. You've suddenly got a bit of spice. Anyway, let's jump into the data sheets. I've mined through them, picking out some changes here or there. I'm sure I haven't caught every single change. There'll be people out there that see more stuff. And there's some minor changes which I'll just brush over. So for example, the Ghost Helm works the same. On a 5-up you ignore a mortal wound, right? You roll a d6. Whenever you suffer a mortal wound, on a 5-up you ignore a mortal wound. But now, if you did that mortal wound to yourself through perils, you can add 3 to that dice roll. So basically, if you roll a 2, if you do perils to yourself, you do perils to yourself with a psychic test, perils of the warp, roll a 2, add 3 as a 5-up. You won't suffer a mortal wound through perils of the warp. So yeah, Ghost Helm has been pimped a little bit. There's been some tweaks to the wording of some of the rules with the name characters, clarifications on how the abilities work. The abilities don't really change to these name characters, it just tweaks them a little bit. I say that, it's like that for all of them, just tweaking them to get rid of those rules clarifications until you hit Jane's R, and then you realise Banshees have changed. And then I flip to the Banshees entry, and Banshees have changed. The Banshee Mask, enemy units can't fire Overwatch at Jane's R. If you have a Banshee Mask, you can't fire Overwatch at Banshees anymore, back to 7th edition. And Acrobatic has changed. Acrobatic for Banshees and Jane's R means you can move and charge in the same turn in which you advance. So you can move, advance, charge. It also says that if there are enemy units within 15 inches, you can declare a charge on them because you always add 3 to the result of your charge roll. This was the 7th edition thing that people liked Banshees for. They got rid of it when the index dropped in 8th, Probably because Banshees can come charging out of Wave Serpents. Well, Banshees can come charging out of Wave Serpents again with the 7th edition buffs. In other words, you move your Wave Serpent up, the guys get out, they move 8 inches, remember, and you've got Battle Focus, and you're advancing, and then you're charging, and you can't fire Overwatch at that unit charging toward you. That's, yeah, that's mean. So for a brief moment when the index dropped, the Banshee Mask always allowed Banshees to fight first in the fight phase. That's gone. It doesn't say that for Banshees anymore. For Banshee Mask, it says you can't fire Overwatch, not fight first in the fight phase. I prefer not firing Overwatch. If you're an Eldar player, I would prefer that, along with the new acrobatic rule, which is +3 to charge, which they had in the index, but also being able to move, advance, and charge. They've still got Washout, which is -1 to hit them in the fight phase, but they've got very, very quick. So there might be those occasions where you're going to get hit first, where someone's got a Tzeentch army or paying 2 command points to hit you first, and you might not like that because previously Banshees always hit first, but at least you're guaranteed getting in there, or don't hit those units that you know that might hit you first. So yeah, Banshees are back. I didn't notice any changes to Striking Scorpions other than the fact that they've gone down by 4 points, but Fire Dragons, I can't see any changes there either. Points stay the same, the Fusion Gun and points for the Fusion Gun stays the same as well, so it feels like Fire Dragons are unaffected, other than the fact that the range of a Melter Bomb has gone down from 6 inches to 4 inches, but they're largely the same. Wraith Blades and Wraith Guards stayed the same as well. Their points stayed the same, but Wraith Blades, their swords stayed the same cost, but you've got the Ghost Axes have gone down 5 points, and the Force Shield has gone down 2 points, so Wraith Blades are a little bit cheaper with the Axe and the Shield. And Wraith Guard are unchanged in points costs. Are a couple of tweaks though. Ghost Swords have gone down from -3 AP to -2 AP, so Ghost Swords not as effective as they used to be. The Ghost Axe and the Shield cheaper than they used to be. And Wraith Guard, previously you rolled once for the D size, and then that's how many shots everyone in the unit had. So if you rolled a 1 on the D3 or 1 or 2 on the D3, everyone gets 1 shot each at Assault D3. But now it just says the weapon automatically hits its target. So if you've got 5 Wraith Guard in a unit firing 5 D-Sives, then you'd roll 5 times for how many Assault D3 shots that you get, rather than just once to find out how many Assault D3 shots you get. So that's a little tweak. Then we go on to the fast attack section. So looking at Wind Riders, there doesn't appear to be any changes there. And remember how you saw Scat Pack jet bikes all over the place, Scatter Laser jetpacks in 7th edition, and then everyone changed the Scatter Lasers for the Shuriken Cannons because Shuriken Cannons are Assault 3 weaponry and Scatter Lasers are Heavy 4 weaponry. Well, if you bring in the Sam Hain Craftworld detachment, you can move and shoot those Scatter Lasers without suffering the penalty to moving and shooting. So I can see Scat Packs coming back again, particularly when we consider that Scatter Lasers have gone down in points. Let me check my notes. Scatter Lasers have gone down in 5 points, and Wind Riders have gone down a few points as well, 2 points. So a Wind Rider with a Scatter Laser is 7 points cheaper than it used to be. Scat Packs might come back. So it's 4 points cheaper per model for a Shuriken Cannon Wind Rider, or 7 points cheaper per model for a Scatter Laser Wind Rider. And with Sam Hain, yeah, Wind Riders, nice. Swooping Hort's Las Blaster went from a Rapid Fire 2, Strength 3, 24-inch range gun to just an Assault 4, 24-inch range gun, so a little tinker there. Now Warp Spiders, they got a little bit of love, as well as being 4 points cheaper. Flicker Jump stayed the same, Iron Resolve stayed the same, but Warp Jump Generator got a little tweak. It works the same with an additional rule at the end. Previously, if you fell back out of combat, then Warp Spiders couldn't shoot, but now it says a unit that uses Warp Jump Generators to fall back can still shoot in the shooting phase. So Warp Spiders falling out of combat using their generators to move, so they're moving a long way because that's 7 plus the 4d6. Well, actually you could roll that but not go that far if you don't want to. You could just move a couple of inches back, but use your generators to fall back out of combat. Warp Spiders shooting out of combat, they become Ultramarines. well, like Ultra means falling back and shooting. They're shooting with no negative. It doesn't say -1 to ballistic skill. It just says you can still shoot in your shooting phase if you fall back using your generator. And they have a brand new rule. Remember previously you could hold them in reserve and they could appear deep strike on the battlefield? Well, that's back. It's called Warp Strike. At the end of any of their movement phases, you can use your Warp Jump generator to enter the battlefield more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. But just like using your Warp Jump generators, you roll 2d6, and if you roll Snake Eyes, then one of the models in that unit is slain. So Warp Spiders can jump in from deep strike again, which is nice. Right, onto the heavy choices, and the first thing there is the War Walkers, the first one in the heavy slot, and it's changed a little bit. All the stats, all the stuff is the same. However, it used to have the rule called Scout Vehicle, which is at the start, it used to be at the start of your first battle round, you could move it 12 inches. The Scout Vehicle rule has changed. It says during deployment, set this unit up on the enemy's flanks instead of placing it on the battlefield, and then at the end of any of your movement phases the unit can join the battle. Set it up so all models in the unit are within 3 inches of the battlefield edge and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So previously War Walkers used to scout forward 12 inches. Now if you want to, they've lost that ability. They can't scout forward 12 inches anymore. Instead you can hold them in reserve and use them to outflank, use them to come in from the sides. And if you like Wraith Lords, there's just a couple of tweaks here which you're going to like very much. A Wraith Lord has got +1 toughness. It's gone up to toughness 8. Toughness 8 being the magic number. In 5th, 6th, 7th edition, toughness 6 was the magic number, which means most weaponry was wounding you on 6s. Now Wraith Lords, toughness 8. They've still got 10 wounds with a 3-up save, but toughness 8. That's a big one. Going from 7th to 8th, Wraith Lords will hang around for a bit longer. And they've got one more attack. They've gone from 3 attacks to 4 attacks as well. The Vaul's Wrath Support Battery has probably taken the biggest change when it comes to points. So it's got one more wound now. It's toughness 5 with 5 wounds instead of toughness 5 with 4 wounds. But it's gone down 47 points for support weapons. 47 points cheaper. However, it's worth pointing out that this is one of the rare units where one of the weapons has gone up in points costs. The Vibro Cannon's gone up 10 points from wherever it was. So if you're taking it with Vibro Cannons, basically you're getting it 37 points cheaper rather than 47 points cheaper. And the Vibro Cannon is, it was a heavy 1 hitter, now it's a heavy D3 hitter. So it was heavy 1, strength 7, -1 D3 damage. Now it's a heavy D3. Strength 7, -1, flat 2 damage. So Vibro Cannons are probably going to be a thing. The D Cannon has gone down. The Shadow Weaver weaponry as well. That's one of the few weaponries that's gone up. That's a +4. But Vaul support weaponry, increased toughness, very, very cheap now. And they don't call it Vaul's Wrath Support Battery anymore. They just call it support weaponry. Oh, one more thing about the Vibro Cannon. It still does the thing where for each Vibro Cannon that's already been fired at the same target, improve the AP of this weapon by 1 and add 1 to the wound rolls. So if you've got a couple of Vibro Cannons firing at the same target, then the more ones that hit that target have an increased AP, increased wound rolls. For example, if a firing model is the 3rd one in the target, then its AP is -3 and you can add 2 to the wound rolls. But it's also got a little tweak at the end, which is if this weapon inflicts any damage on a unit, on an enemy unit, that unit cannot advance in its next movement phase unless it can fly. Just a little tweak there. Can't see any changes to the Dark Reapers, the Falcon or the Night Spinner. I mean, they're all still mean, but Falcon's being 49 points cheaper is just ridiculous. Come on. However, Fire Prism's got a little bit of a tweak. Fire Prism's basically got a version of the Grinding Advance from the Layman Rust that the Guard get. Basically, Pulsed Laser Discharge, brand new rule. If a model moves under half of its speed, i.e. moves distance in inches less than half of its current move characteristic, it can shoot its Prism Cannon twice in the next shooting phase. Not in that shooting phase. And the Prism Cannon must use the same profile and target the same unit both times it's fired. So move half the speed, next turn firing twice which is very interesting because you've got the heavy 1 lance shot, which is the strength 12 -5 AP D6 damage laser blast of doom. So you can fire that twice, which is mean. Or you can do the highly dispersed one, the heavy D6, strength 6 -3 AP, 1 damage. You could do heavy 2D6, so long as you're firing at the same target with the same profile. Fire prisms, yeah, a lot more DACA. And they went down a little bit in points as well. I think it was 3 points. The Prism Cannon is still free. So yeah, fire prisms, more DACA, a little bit cheaper. Flyers. I don't think the Crimson Hunter or the Crimson Hunter Exarch changed, apart from going down 23 and 48 points. 48 points in cost. Couple of tweaks with Hemlock Ray Fighters though, because they needed help. Remember the heavy D-Scythe, the Assault D3, Strength 10, AP -4, 2 damage weapon that automatically hits its target, and it has 2 of them at -4, so the Wraith Knights flying in, smashing targets, you're getting no armor save because it's -2 and it's doing 2 damage. Well, that Assault 3 D3 weapon has gone from Strength 10 to Strength 12. Why? I don't know, because it was already brutal, but it's now a bit more brutal. They can still manifest psychic powers, but it does mention that if you take... they can only manifest psychic powers from the Runes of Battle and Smite, 1 of each. But if a Hemlock Wraith Fighter knew Embolden Horrify power, it could only attempt to manifest the Horrify power. It can only attempt to manifest the second effect of the psychic powers from the Runes of Battle discipline. We'll get onto the psychics in a minute. And then we've got the Granddaddy. Then we've got the Wraith Knight, which is still the same points cost. And the heavy Wraith Cannon is still the same points cost. It's the Titanic Ghost Glaive. That's gone down 35 points. But remember, scatter lasers have also gone down 5 points a pop. So you can load them up with the scatter lasers on it. But the heavy Wraith Cannon used to be strength 10. And now it's strength 16. So I think it needed a buff. I think the Wraith Knights were not as effective as they used to be, and at strength 16, any toughness 8 vehicle or less, it's always wounding on 2s. Still an assault 2 weapon, still 36-inch range, still does D6 damage at -4 AP, but strength 16, the Wraith Knight's primary gun, the heavy Wraith Cannon, just got very, very mean. And remember, the Shoot You version carries 2 of these heavy Wraith Cannons, so that's 4 strength 16 -4 AP D6 damage shots coming out. So Wraith Knights can potentially one-shot Land Raiders now. Right, we've gone through the changes in the stat sheets. In the data sheets, there's probably a couple more things in there that I missed. So let's go on to the Rune discipline, Runes of Battle, Runes of Fate. And there's 6 in Runes of Battle, 6 in Runes of Fate, but Runes of Battle has got Conceal, Reveal, Embolden, Horrify, Enhance, Drain, Protect, Jinx, Quicken, Restrain, Empower, and Innovate. Basically, the Runes of Battle, because there's 2 in each, there's 12 psychic powers there essentially. And Runes of Fate, they've got the 6, Guide, Doom, Fortune, Executioner, Will of Azuran, and Mind War. So when the Eldar get jiggy with their psychic powers, there's 18 different options for them to pick from. Your Warlocks and your Spirit Seers pick from the Runes of Battle, just like before, and Fire Seers from the Runes of Fate. Runes of Fate. Okay, let's do the Runes of Fate. Guide, Doom, Fortune, not changed. Still the same range, still the same casting value of 7, 24-inch range. Fortune, it does say though that if a unit already has an ability, which such as a 5-up Invuln or 5-up Ignore the Wound, which is what Fortune does, then Fortune replaces that ability until your next psychic phase, whereas previously it says you ignore it. Now it says it replaces it, so there might be some game mechanics going on that works with, don't know. Executioner. Warp charge value of 7 if manifested. The nearest enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds. If a model in the target unit is slain as a result of this, the target unit suffers an additional D3 mortal wounds. So it's like a better version of Smite. You can pick on a unit, do D3 mortal wounds to that unit. Say it's a, I don't know, Space Marine squad or a bunch of Tau. You just kill one model in that, and then it spills over and does another D3 mortal wounds to that unit. If you're targeting one big thing, then it will just do D3 mortal wounds, and it hits the nearest enemy unit. You can't pick. But a chance to do 2d3 mortal wounds to a unit there. So long as you kill one model, it'll do another rollover and do another d3. Then you've got the Will of Azor. Warp charge value of 5, so it's cheap. Any friendly Craftworld units automatically pass morale test while they're within 6 inches of the Psyker until your next psychic phase, and in addition you can add 1 to or deny the witch tests that you make for the Psyker until your next phase. So yeah. And then Mind War has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, choose an enemy character model within 18 inches of the Psyker. So not necessarily the closest guy, you can pick a character, you can snipe an out at 18 inches away from the Psyker. Then each player rolls a d6 and add their model's leadership. If your opponent scores higher, or if the scores are drawn, nothing happens. If the Psyker's score is higher, the target unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference between the two scores. So you can use Mind War to snipe at enemy characters 18 inches away and put mortal wounds on them. But it is better than sniping out characters in the shooting phase, because you can do this if you're locked in combat, if the enemy character is locked in combat. It happens in the psychic phase. You can just target them, bam, and do that roll off, so long as you pass a warp charge of 7. Okay, Runes of Battle. Conceal, Reveal, Embolden, Horrify, Enhance, Drain. Look to be the same to me, except for Enhance, Drain. Previously, Enhance was add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for friendly Craftworld infantry and biker units within 3 inches of the Psyker. Now that range rolls out to 18 inches of the Psyker, just like the Drain roll had an 18-inch range. It used to be Enhance of 3 inches and Drain of 18. Now it's an Enhance of 18 inches and a Drain of 18. So Enhance is rolling out a bit more. And now you've got Protect Jinx. So Protect Jinx is a warp charge of 7. If manifested, choose one of the following. Protect. Choose a friendly Craftworld infantry or biker unit within 18 inches of the Psyker and add 1 to their saving throws until the next psychic phase. Nice. Jinx. Choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all saving throws made for that unit until their next psychic phase. So you can imagine Jinx on top of Doom. That would be nasty. Quicken. Restrain. Warp charge 7. Quicken. 18-inch range, again infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately move as if it was the movement phase. You cannot use Quicken on a single unit more than once per psychic phase, which you couldn't do if it was a match play game, but now you can. So basically you've got warp time from the Chaos Codex for infantry or biker units. You cast it on them 18 inches away and they can immediately move as if they're in the movement phase. Let's talk about Banshees for a second. So Banshees move a long way and advance, and they can charge after they've done it. And then you cast this on them, and then they're moving again. You got first turn charges potentially coming up here with Banshees. Or let's stick the Banshees in a Wave Serpent and then get them out that extra 3 inches, and then get them to move and then advance. And then there's a stratagem which you can put on them, which means they can move again and charge. That's your Banshees done. You could put Quicken Restrain on another unit of Banshees or a unit of Striking Scorpions, and suddenly that unit is moving again and you've got first turn charges coming on. Quicken is going to be mean. I like it. Moving twice, particularly with a unit as fast as the Eldar, or a biker unit which can move a long way, moving from one side of the battlefield to the other side of a battlefield. Biker units. Nice. Empower, Enervate. Warp charge value of 6. Empower. Choose an infantry or biker unit friendly within 18 inches of the Psyker and add 1 to wound rolls in the fight phase for that unit until your next psychic phase. Add 1 to wound rolls. So when they're damaging stuff, everything in that unit adds 1 to its wound rolls. Yeah, dishing out a lot of wounds. And then Enervate. Choose an enemy unit and your enemy must subtract 1 from all wound rolls made for that unit in the fight phase until the next psychic phase. So 3 more things from rune disciplines there. Runes of Battle, that Quicken, it stands out to me. And in Runes of Fate, I like the idea of Executioner. Executioner doing D3 mortal wounds, killing one guy, and then spilling over another D3 mortal wounds. Seems to me like a more reliable smite there. And that's pretty much it for the rules part of my Codex review. I did have a look at the narrative. It does tie in some of the key events in the Fall of Cadia. It does talk about Urain and the coming of the Inari. The Biotan stuff stands out, the Iandan stuff stands out. But there's not much more additions. It's the Craftworld Codex narrative is written for new hobbyists mainly in mind. It doesn't delve too much into the upcoming new events that much. There is some new artwork in here which is very, very good. But there's not a lot of narrative in here that we haven't seen before. Okay, so at that point I'll draw it to a close. Thank you for listening to my Craftworld's Codex review. I'm really sorry I couldn't show you any pages. If I show you some pages, then Games Workshop will stop sending me codexes and you can't hear this stuff in advance. That's it. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support me, check out Winters on Patreon. Thank you to all my patrons. Happy wargaming.